Random Thoughts. In this video, I'm going to read some parts of Sir Richard Burton's book, First Steps in East Africa, or an Exploration of Harar, where he tells us or gives us some background information about the governor of Zaylac, a guy who went by the name Shamarke. Now, Shamarke seemed like he knew that Sir Richard Burton was coming to Zaylac and he was going to Harar. And seems like, if we are going to believe Burton, that there was a meeting in Aden, southern Yemen, earlier on, where Shamarke had come, and there was a conversation between him and the British officials there, and he had been given instructions that when Sir Richard Burton comes, you need to take care of him. And I'm going to read a part where he says something that is we can interpret it to mean that. He says, "I had met Shamarke at Aden, where he received from the authorities strong injunctions concerning my personal safety. The character of a Muslim merchant, however, requiring us to appear strangers. An introduction by our master of ceremonies, Hamal, followed my entrance." Now here he's talking about them arriving at Zaylac. When they arrive, they get out of the boat. They go, and I've said this in another video, that there was some commotion going on. The governor has chased strangers out of the city. There was an outbreak of smallpox. The governor was at war, basically, we can say, with the emir of Harar. But he welcomes them into the city. Now, when they get into the city, that's where he says that he had met him. This was not the first time that Sir Richard Burton was meeting Shamarke. Now, when they meet, there is a pretense. Everybody pretends like they had never met before. And then this Hamal guy, who was one of the people who had come with Sir Richard Burton, goes ahead and serves as the master of ceremony, and then he introduces everyone. And I found that to be very interesting. But who was this Shamarke guy? Sir Richard Burton does give us some very interesting details about this guy. And you are left thinking this guy was most likely a stooge of the British. That's what, and I'm going to read parts of the book in addition to this one, which might make you come to think of him that most likely was being used by the British, of course, to go and collect information from Harar, and maybe later on come and conquer Harar, and more specifically get control of the port of Berbera. Shamarke's full name was Alhaj Shamarke bin Al-Salih. And this is what he says about him. He says that the governor of Zaylac, Alhaj Shamarke bin Ali Salih, is rather a remarkable man. He is 16th, according to his own account, in descent from Ishaq al-Hasrami, the saintly founder of the great Girhajis. So this is who he is, and he claims to be the 16th in line from the founder of the Girhajis. But now he's going to also give us some information that brings this in doubt. But we need to look at that lineage, which he actually provides, which Sir Richard Burton provides and claims that that was given to him by Shamarke. And it starts with Ishaq bin Hamad bin Abdillah, and then there is Girhajis, the eldest son of Ishaq. Then there is Said, the eldest son of Daud, being the second. Daud was the second son of Girhajis. There is Ara, then there is Musa, and then there is Ibrahim, then there is Fiki, then there is Edan, then there is Muhammad, then there is Hamid, Jibril, and then Ali, Awaz, Salih, Ali, and then Shamarke, the 16th. So that is the lineage he provides. But now, Richard Burton gives us another view about the ancestry of this guy, which brings into doubt that he was actually an indigenous Somali guy. Makes it sound like he was from outside, he was from Abyssinia, and his father or his grandfather was a slave. And we are going to read that part. He says, his enemies derive him from a less illustrious stock. So his enemies don't believe that he actually comes from that lineage that he provides. And the fairness of his complexion favors the report that his grandfather, Salih, was an Abyssinian slave. So there is that piece of information that Richard Burton gets. This is not from him, Shamarke, but from other people. Shamarke does provide him with that lineage that we just went through. But then Richard Burton gets this other information, especially from people who did not like him. And they say that he was not an original, because he's Somali. His grandfather was an Abyssinian slave. At least those were the rumors then. And then they continue to say, originally the Nakoda, or captain of native craft, he has raised himself chiefly by British influence to the chieftain of his tribe. As early as May 1825, he received from Captain Bagnold, then our resident at Mocha, a testimonial and a reward for severe sword wound in the left arm received while defending the lives of English seamen. He afterwards went to Bombay, where he was treated with consideration, and about 15 years ago he succeeded the Sayyid Muhammad Albar as governor of Zaylac and its dependencies under the Ottoman Pasha in Western Arabia. So that's how he becomes the governor of Zaylac. Actually seems like he worked for the British at some point. So he was a friend of the British. And then, of course, seems like he came from very low level. And then he came up and he became the governor of Zaylac. Seems like he worked very hard. But there is this relationship that he has with the British that leaves you wondering whether he was a man or he was himself in charge or he was being used. He also says the following about him. The Aj Shamarke in his youth was a man of valor. He could not read or write, but he carried in battle 4 spears, and his sword cut was recognizable. He is now a man about 60 years old, at least 6 feet 2 inches in stature, large-limbed and raw-boned. His leanness is hidden by long wide lobes. He shaves his head and upper lip shavy fashion, and his beard is represented by a ragged tuft of red-stained hair on each side of his chin. A visit to Aden and a doctor cost him one eye, and the other is now white with age. His dress is that of an Arab, and he always carries with him a broad-bladed silver-hilted sword. Despite his years, he is a strong and active and energetic man, ever looking to the main chance. With one foot in the grave, he meditates nothing but the conquest of Harar and Berbera, which, making him master of the seaboard, will soon extend his power as his days of old, even to Abyssinia. So he's about 60 years old. He has lost one eye, which he tells us was to a doctor. He doesn't give us the details what happened there. But he's very old, no, maybe not very old, but he's old at 60s, advanced age. But he still dreams. He still dreams that he was going to conquer Harar and make Berbera, maybe take control of Berbera. But remember, the British want Berbera. So is he conquering it for himself and his people, or is he conquering it for the British? This is a question that maybe we'll find an answer as we read further. Maybe he was also playing the British. You never know, because, you know, in such relationships, you might think that the person that is being used is the person that is using the other. So we might know as we read this book, or we might never get a clear answer as whether he was being used or he was using the British. So yeah, so this is the guy who welcomes Richard Burton to Zaylac, and he's the governor of Zaylac. And at this point, he is in a disagreement, or there is a conflict between him and the Emir of Harar. And he welcomes Burton and he makes him comfortable. And we are going to find out what happens after that. Those are my random thoughts.